Madhava Kunya Vidano all stood tell us that Shiva is divine grace. Abhaya Chandana, Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Kijai, Iskan founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Kijai, Ananta Koti, Vaishnav Vrinda Kijai, Acharya, Srila Vilas Thakur Kijai. Ren Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Srimasti Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gajaya Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopalabhanath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kijaya Vrindavanam Kijaya Macharadam Kijaya Jagannath Swami Kijaya Manamaya Kijaya Shrimati Lasti Devi Kijaya Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Kijaya Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhugale Shrimani Bhaktivedanta Swami Nami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Vachani Nindashesha Shinuvadi Paschat Devi Shatarni. Okay, so we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 8th Chapter, Text 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naradas Tad Upakarnya Nyatva Tasha Chakirshita Spritstra Mordani Aga Nena Pandana Praha Vismita Naradasthadupakarnya Nyatvatasya Chakirshitam Sprisra Mordnyaga Spritsra Mordanyagagnena Panina Praha Vismita Nardasthadupakarnya Yatvatasya Chakirshitam Sprisra Mordanyagagnena Panina Praha Vismita. Just one hint about this third line here. It's not Murdani Aga, it's Murdan Yaga. Because that's the words of Sandhi in Sanskrit, you actually have to, anyway, when you got a vowel in the next one and a Y before, it's Murdan Yagnena. And even the A and the G, they go together in that. So do one more time. Nardasthadupakarnya Nakvatasya Chakirshitam Sprisra Mordanyagagnena Panina Praha Vismita.
Nardasthadupakarnya Yatvatasya Chakirtitam
Yatvatasya Chakirshitam
Sprisra Mordanyagagnena
Sprisra Mordanyagagnena
Panina Praha Vishmita
Panina Praha Vismita.
Nardasthadupakarnya
Nardasthadupakarnya
Yatvatasya Chakirshitam
Yatvatasya Chakirshitam
Sprishva Mordanyagagnena
Sprishva Mordanyagagnena
Panina Praha Vismita
Panina Praha Vismita. Nardasthadupakarnya Yatvatasya Chakirshitam Sprishva Mordanyagagnena Panina Praha Vismita. Okay, ladies. Nardasthadupakarnya
Yatvatasya Chakirshitam
Yatvatasya Chakirtitam
Vatasya Chikirshitam Sritva Vardanya Gagnena Panina Pravismita. Okay. Narada. The great sage Narada. Tat. That. Upakarnya. Overhearing. Jatva. And knowing. Tasya. His Dhruva Maharajas. Jakirshitam. Activities. Sprishtva. By touching. Mordane. On the head. Agagnena. Which can drive away all sinful activities. Panana. By the hand. Praha. Said. Vismita. Being surprised. Some translation. The great sage Narada overheard this news, and understanding all the activities of Dhruva Maharaja, he was struck with wonder. He approached Dhruva, and touching the boy's head with his all-virtuous hand, he spoke as follows. So, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Dhruva Maharaja was talking with his mother Suniti, all of the incidents that had taken place in the palace, Narada was not present. Thus the question may be raised how Narada overheard all these topics. The answer is that Narada is tri-kala-jna. He is so powerful that he can understand the past, future, and present of everyone's heart, just like the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, after understanding the strong determination of Dhruva Maharaj, Narada came to help him. It may be explained in this way. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everyone's heart, and as soon as he understands that a living entity is serious about entering devotional service, he sends his representative. In this way, Narada was sent to Dhruva Maharaj. This is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Guru Krishna prasade paya bhakti lata bija. That's from the Madhya-lila 19th chapter, text 151. By the grace of the spiritual master in Krishna, one can enter into devotional service. Because of Dhruva Maharaj's determination, Krishna, the super soul, immediately sent his representative, Narada, to initiate him. So, okay. Narada-stadapakarnya yatvatasya chikirshitam svishramurdanya gagnena panina prahavismita. So, Om Ganat Simalanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shirave Namaha. There are a number of topics here. First one I want to talk about is Nardamuni being surprised. That's the Vismita, the last word in this particular verse. So it's interesting, he was surprised, and at the same time he's what? Tri-kala-jna. So I'm going to explain tri-kala-jna after I describe why he was surprised and what it means for a devotee to be tri-kala-jna. So he was surprised because he saw the great determination of Dhruva Maharaj. Now, as Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, there's different varieties of determination. right? Everybody knows about that? Determination of the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Of course, determination in the mode of ignorance is not really determination, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, because it never goes beyond dreaming, procrastination, dreaming. Tomorrow I will surrender to Krishna. Tomorrow I will study in school. You see this all the time. I do a lot of preaching to people going to the university, and they have this thing called the last night before the exam. What's it called again? Pulling an all-nighter. It's called pulling an all-nighter. That the whole semester they're just partying, and then, oh my God, exams are tomorrow, and they stay up all night. So that is basically it's about a little passion at the end, but mostly ignorance. I mean, when I went to the university, not to talk about myself, is I usually tried to study every day. So when it came time for the exams, then I partied. No, I didn't party. Anyway, but then I was more relaxed. So determination of the mode of passion is for some fruitive gain. You really determined. Really determined in the mode of passion. Another example I give is that of my father. He would wake up earlier than the devotees, like at 3 o'clock every morning, go to work. Why? Money is the honey. And you see this with successful people. I mean, I guess that we can mention his name, Mr. Musk, has a little issues. He probably lives in the factory. Some of you have heard about him before? No, he's the one who is the founder, Acharya of Tesla. So anyway, he practically lives in the factory. Literally sleeps on the factory floor. He just tortures his poor factory workers to make them work, 24/7. And so this is not to glorify him. That's in the passion mode. You want more and more. So much is mine today, so much more will I get tomorrow. He's my enemy, I've conquered him. Kshatriyas are generally in the mode of passion. And they're also encouraged by prestige. That's how you can tell someone's in the mode of passion. They're very much concerned about reputation. Krishna, of course, uses this particular argument with Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, people make fun of you. Unkind words. They'll say you have left the battlefield out of cowardice. And so, one who has been honored, dishonor is what? Worse than death. So if you say that to a Brahmin, he says, who cares? Just like you have the story about Lord Rishabhadev, he directly or deliberately became dishonored so he could get detached from this material world. You know that story? He did Jata Yoga. Jata Yoga means he basically acted like a madman. And also we have Bharat Maharaj, or Jadabharta. Jadabharta's story is really interesting. That he just chose to act like a madman. He didn't care. People were making fun of him. They put him out like a scarecrow, to scare away all the crows in the field. He didn't care. He was just like, Hare Krishna, make my day. So you can actually see what mode of nature one is in by these external symptoms. It's not that difficult. You don't have to be tri-kala-jna to see that. It's obvious. And one in the mode of goodness is determined because of yoga practice and may not be that's not necessarily transcendental. And one in the transcendental mode of goodness, Vishuddha Sattva, his enthusiasm or determination comes from pleasing Guru and Krishna. It's completely not selfish. Whereas one in the mode of goodness, there's some selfish component. He wants to get liberated. He wants to go back to Godhead. He wants to get out of this material world. He wants to be peaceful. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Right? So basically, those are the different types of determination. So Dhruva Maharaja, of course, was passion. And devotees, they're very expert in utilizing a person's modes of nature to bring them to Krishna consciousness. Like we're going to see Nardamuni doing, utilizing Dhruva Maharaja's passion to help him become determined. Of course, we talked a little bit about this yesterday when we cited the verse, Akama Sarvakama Moksha Karma Dharati to Rena Bhakti Yogini Yasheta Purusham Dharam. But we presented that verse from the personal perspective of someone doing devotional service. Now I'm going to present it from the perspective of someone trying to bring someone to Krishna consciousness. Because that's part of preaching. You know, Prabhupada will often say, do what you're doing, but do it for Krishna. And Prabhupada was very, very tolerant of people in different modes. One story was that Prabhupada was having Lord Jagannath carved by Shyamachandra, my dear godbrother. And Shyamachandra was addicted to cigarette smoking. And Shyamachandra even put a pack of cigarettes on top of the deity that he was carving. Can you imagine that? You come in to see a deity, like so you go to Jaipur to see a deity being carved, and someone puts a pack of cigarettes. And Prabhupada, he just said, just smoke one less every day. You know, Prabhupada, so, you know, he's very expert in, and even when Shyamachandra, another story about Shyamachandra, took the BBT money and invested it in the gold market. Can you imagine that? I mean, if I had done that, probably, oh my God, I would have been killed. So, Prabhupada actually went to Switzerland and just engaged him, and eventually, Prabhupada pulled all the money out of the gold market. So, but, you see, Prabhupada was so expert like that. Actually, one incident, actually, this is funny, how someone engaged the mode of ignorance in Krishna consciousness. I'll tell you the story. This comes to mind. It's the story of Bilvamangal Thakur. He was very addicted to illicit sex. And his determination was just to, it was illicit sex, mixed mode of passion and ignorance, but mostly ignorance. So he, you all know that there was a big storm and lightning and thunder, and he had to cross a river, and he had to grab hold of a dead body to cross the river, a snake to climb the wall to enter Chintamani's house. It's a nice name for a prostitute. So, and he climbs over the wall, he knocks on the door, and she says, if you were so determined to be Krishna conscious, you'd be a pure devotee. He says, oh, you're right. So sometimes we have to do that with devotees too. We just say, you have so much determination. I wish I had so much determination like you to serve Krishna. So Nardamuni, getting to the point, Nardamuni is just amazed at this determination in the mode of passion. And it amazes all of us when we see someone very materialistically inclined in the mode of passion. Wow. And then I come to the temple and I think, why can't the devotees be so enthusiastic? Is that it? I remember years ago we was building a temple. And so I just arranged everybody we should start construction at 7:30 in the morning. This is in North Carolina. And okay, everybody has to show up. So I showed up at 7:30 with my hammer and nails and everything. And everybody else was eating prasadam, and they spent like 2 hours talking to each other during prasadam, taking a nap after prasadam. And I was just, of course, unfortunately, I was getting angry. Hate to admit it. So, and then you contrast that, not me, I'm not contrasting myself, but contrasting these devotees with Prabhupada's attention and not wasting a moment, his determination. anyone who was with Prabhupada could observe in his composure, in his actions, and everything, his like complete determination to please Krishna. Like Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness of the preacher, Krishna consciousness is like a Kshatriya activity. Of course, he wasn't in the mode of passion, but he was transcendental. Prabhupada is transcendental. But it was just like, wow. Just like, what is it called? SEAL Team 7? Anyone's heard about that? No.
Six.
Where's Bushaya?
Six.
Sorry. I apologize. So, it's just like, you see these determination of these soldiers and everything like that. So Prabhupada was like that too, just extremely determined. And that's also really surprising for us to see. And that was one of the things that really inspired me. Prabhupada's great determination at an age when most of us would be thinking of retiring. You know, you see, Prabhupada started everything in like 69, and then, and that was the most, at least externally, productive years as far as spreading Krishna consciousness. But that's determination, because by determination to serve Lord Chaitanya, what is it? A lame man can walk, a dog can swim in ocean, or a blind man can see, and also by determination to serve and follow the order of the spiritual master, the success potency of the Lord is there. Prabhupada said the success potency is there in the order of the spiritual master. So you see that. Ekha Kurnandana. So that's the point about Nardamuni being surprised. Now the question is, why was he surprised of his tri-kala-jna? And what does tri-kala-jna mean in terms of Nardamuni? You hear this description of tri-kala-jna applied to other devotees too. For example, Yamaraj is described as tri-kala-jna. Most of us wish he wasn't. At least those who are not Krishna conscious. It's even described, there's one description about Yamaraj, how he's in the heart of every living entity. That's interesting. Is he in the heart? But he's in the heart because he's conscious of what's happening in the heart, but he's conscious of what's happening in the heart of all living entities because he's connected to the super soul. So his tri-kala-jna, Nardamuni's tri-kala-jna, is different than Krishna's tri-kala-jna. In the Gita, Krishna makes this statement: as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that happened in the past, everything that is present, and everything that's going to happen in the future. Why? Bhagavatam describes Abhijnas Swarat. That's a description at the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Krishna, of course, is independent. That's Swarat. He's all-knowing. He's in every atom. That's the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Jiva Soul doesn't have that nature. The Jiva Soul is not all-knowing. He's dependent upon what the Super Soul facilitates him in knowing, not through his own energy or potency, whereas Krishna's Swarat means he's independent. He's not dependent on someone else for knowledge. He doesn't have to Google something. Everything's independently known. It's an interesting description of Krishna. You have to read the beginning of the Bhagavatam of the Yiswarat. And he's also Aptakama. That means, that's more of his independence. He gets what he wants, when he wants, from whoever he wants. Aptakama means his desire is automatically fulfilled. Right? As Krishna's energies are all first-class servants. So that's the nature of God. Now, here's another dilemma that appears to occur when we talk about Krishna's all-knowing, abhijna, knowing everything, past, present, and future. What about free will? You know, there's this statement there, what about free will? is everything predestined? Or can we change? And if we change, did Krishna know we were going to change? So these are interesting theological questions, because you don't really want to end up with a contradiction saying Krishna is all-knowing, he knows everything that's going to happen in the future. But you can change your fate too by taking up Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said that as far as his giving mercy out to the devotees, he made our good fortune. Prabhupada also said we should go out and make others' good fortune, right? That's our duty, to create the good fortune of others by the mercy of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Of course, Nardamuni can give good fortune just by touching someone's head. I can't do that. Although as a sannyasi, people come up to you all the time and say, touch my son's head, touch my head. Okay, blessings, Ashirvad. So, but Nardamuni has that ability. So, the way we can understand this, like Krishna's, how to resolve this apparent contradiction between Krishna being all-knowing and, predestination, free will, etc., like that, is that Krishna, we can change our fate, but Krishna knows we're going to change our fate. And it doesn't conflict with free will. Krishna knows how we're going to use our free will. Some people think it's a conflict. It's not that Krishna makes us do something. If we're in the material world, we're forced to act by the modes of nature. But we do have that independence at any point to become Krishna conscious or surrender to Krishna. So, and Krishna knows when we're going to utilize it properly. If he didn't know it, he wouldn't be God. If you say, well, there's something Krishna doesn't know. However, here's another point. For the sake, this is such an interesting point. For the sake of Leela, Krishna doesn't know sometimes. Because if Krishna was always thinking about what's going to happen next, there would be no fun. For example, in the case of no fun for Krishna. Krishna also likes to have fun. He's not like some boring God that just wants to sit all day long and judge people. Krishna wants to have fun. In order to have fun, there has to be suspense, there has to be anger, there has to be, you have to experience all these different emotions, especially the indirect emotions or rasas, tastes, like, chivalry and humor. But let's say when the coward boys marched into the mouth of the Aghasura demon, let's say in that particular case, Krishna was just thinking, okay, this is one of my pastimes, this is what I'm supposed to do now. It's not so exciting for Krishna, right? Is it? No, it's not so exciting, because at that point it's describing the Krishna book. Krishna was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? That's the fun. If it's just like, yeah, I've been there, isn't that we have the saying, been there, seen it, done it? Anyone's heard that one before? Yeah. It's just like, it's boring. It's boring, it's just like doing the same. Same thing for Krishna is not boring because it's filled with ras. Like we chant the same Hare Krishna mantra every day. But let's say, deja vu, been there before. Let's say you have some sort of like big problem in a relationship with someone, or a husband and wife, they're arguing, it's the same argument every day. I don't know. So it gets a little stale, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It gets a little stale, So, I need some variety. Like Prabhupada said, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So without variety, just like if you eat the same thing every day, of course the prasadam, it's nice, but most of us don't really understand that, so we just have to have some variety. Today, idlis, tomorrow, sambar. Just like a devotee came to me yesterday and said, would you like some idlis? I said, of course. But make sure there's coconut chutney there too. So, there has to be some variety. So for Krishna, his enjoyment is variety. And that means there's Yoga Maya, right? Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya enables Krishna to forget he's God. To forget he's all-knowing. I mean, obviously with the Agasura demon thing, after a while he remembers. He says, oh, yeah, I am God. I can march into the mouth of the Agasura demon. But then you have other times where Krishna is worried because Radharani won't talk to him. Can you imagine that? Radharani's angry because he wants to get Radharani angry. Like that. And then he has to go down and beg for forgiveness from her and touch her feet, right? And so, wow. This is, anyway, this is Leela. So that's the Lord's forgetfulness, although he's all-knowing. It's a really interesting topic. And so here, get back to Nardamuni now. So Nardamuni, he's all-knowing, but he didn't know until this pastime came up that he was going to be part of the pastime, because Krishna tells him, that's his all-knowingness, that Krishna tells him what he needs to know. Because the jiva soul can never have the same perfection as God. He can never be all-pervasive. He can never know everything. Not a blade of grass moves without a particular jiva soul. But he is dictated to by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what he needs to know, Krishna tells him. So that when we look at a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, what he needs to know, Krishna tells him, because he's not Vishnu Tattva. Oftentimes, the devotees confuse the position of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada with the position of God. They think, Prabhupada knows everything. And then they may get bewildered because of let's say what happened with the Gurukulas. Did Prabhupada know? He's supposed to be all-knowing. But Prabhupada, he knows what Krishna wants him to know. He's a pure devotee. Everything he does is out of devotion for Krishna. But he's not Vishnu Tattva. There's a real distinction between Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. There's a distinction between Narayan and Nardamuni. There's a distinction between Narayan and Yamaraj. So I think that's quite an important point to understand. Anyway, so in this verse, we find Nardamuni blessing Dhruva Maharaj, and the story continues. So any questions or comments? Important philosophical points. Yeah.
Well, it's not an important philosophical point. You had said you were going to, yesterday you were going to talk about devotional relationships. I guess that would.
Well, I don't know if it fits into today's class. I could. I mean, if you just want me to segue into.
I don't know. I was just bringing it up again in case.
Well, I mean, all right. I mean, if you want me to bring it up, that I was just reading this story in the Bhagavatam about the Prachetas. Everyone's heard of the Prachetas? They're the sons of King Barhishma, who was the one who was told the Puranjana story by Nardamuni. That's fourth canto. And so these Prachetas had been ordered by their father to perform austerities. And they were going to become Prajapatis. In other words, people who were going to help propagate not propagate the universe, but have some children. And so these Prachetas, they followed their father very nicely, and they were praised in doing that. Actually, the Lord praised them. Lord Vishnu praised them. And then Lord Vishnu praised them for something else. He praised them for their cooperative spirit. He said, because you work together cooperatively in fulfilling the order of your father. And that was one of the main reasons they got Lord Vishnu's mercy. And they also recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. I mean, there's more of the story than I just told. And so Prabhupada talks about in his commentary how this cooperative mood is very pleasing to Krishna. And there's so many verses, I mean, even the verse of Vidati Pratigunati Guyamakyati Prichati, loving exchanges, like giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, giving gifts, accepting gifts, revealing divine confidence. That means confidential. Are the loving exchanges. And Prabhupada talks about how the Krishna conscious movement moves on these loving exchanges and how if we execute these loving exchanges, this will attract people. Actually, this is one of the things that I've seen in propagating Krishna consciousness. As one of the most important factors is when people come to the temple or come to the society of devotees, they see loving relationships between the devotees. Because you judge Krishna consciousness by the observation of the people who are performing the activities of Krishna consciousness. In other words, if people come and you see all these saintly qualities, and one of the saintly qualities is cooperations and loving relationships and everything like that, then people will be attracted. And one of the things that attracted me to join a particular temple was that in that particular temple, this was Gainesville, Florida, the devotees had loving relationships, and the temple president, that was Sri Dayananda Das Adhikari. That's who later on became Nardamuni Maharaj. So anyway, the temple president, he was married at that time to a very nice lady. I think I can mention that. He also mentions that. Ananda Manjari. And they had such a wonderful relationship. The whole temple was like a family situation. And we had a lot of people. And we were all university students and everything like that. And so, yeah, just, it was, I hate to use the word, it was warm and fuzzy. Warm and fuzzy? You don't have that expression anymore?
I don't know about the fuzzy.
We use it.
We use it, yeah. So we felt this like warm family-like atmosphere. And, I had visited other temples too. I had visited other temples, and I had not experienced that warm, fuzzy atmosphere. In fact, the devotees drove me away by telling me I was going to hell. But that's another story. But in this temple, I experienced that, and I was very attracted to that. And so when the devotees have this sort of relationship, of course, that's most pleasing to Krishna, the cooperation and love. Prabhupada also said, by love and cooperation, you please him after he leaves the planet. And so, Prabhupada also liked competition, but loving competition. And Prabhupada was so loving with us. So, anyway, so that was basically it. I have a lot of other quotes and everything else to talk about, but that I don't know how that relates to this class. I mean, Nardamuni, of course, was very loving towards Dhruva Maharaja, and the spiritual master, the friend of the poor, Lord and master of the devotees, eternal father. You hear all these nice descriptions of the spiritual master, and then, I think it was you who quoted or mentioned to me the other day how when everybody met at Kurukshetra, you mentioned it to me? No. when all the devotees met at Kurukshetra, the gopis and Krishna's wives, they all just like embraced each other, had such a nice, loving relationship with each other. So that's there in the Krishna book in the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam.
It may relate to Suruchi driving Dhruva away.
Yeah, well, he actually wanted to sit on his father's lap. It wasn't so. It was also her nastiness that drove him away, but he wanted, it was in prestige. It was a passionate thing with him. Prestige and affection from his father, which is natural, yeah. And of course, there's party spirit. Ruchi, she had this party spirit, my son and not my son. So Prabhupada didn't appreciate this party spirit between different devotees. How we should appreciate each other's service and, overlook faults. All of us are, not all of you, but, I know myself, I'm pockmarked with faults. And there's a quote from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which I don't have here, a beautiful poem that he wrote about not finding faults in others because you yourself are pockmarked with the same faults. So this is the poem. I was going to read it, but I don't have it here with me right now. So, anybody else have a question about it? Yes?
What would you say are some of the things that facilitate or open up the loving exchanges between devotees versus things that would inhibit or close it down?
Well, obviously the Upadeshamrita, giving prasadam, and devotee comes. I know whenever we went to see Prabhupada, there was always giving prasadam, even if it was just like these crystallized little candies. The Prabhupada kept a jar of crystallized little candies in his room, at least in India, in his room, and it's always giving prasadam. I got the opportunity to give Prabhupada prasadam, but that was also after. I used to cook sometimes with Shruta Kirti for Prabhupada, and then also one time I was in a car with Prabhupada, and I gave him some of these Prabhupada, the sugar cookies that we used to make, whatever, Prabhupada cookies, and I had forgotten. It was just me and Dhruva Maharaja and Prabhupada in a car, and we had gone to a program, and I had forgotten to bring the plate of cookies out. And I felt really bad. And so I apologized to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, give me the cookies. And so Prabhupada basically ate the whole plate of cookies. So, it was really, I was sitting in the back, and I passed them to Prabhupada. And anyway, so, giving prasadam, accepting prasadam. Just like even this morning, it made my offering, whatever prasadam I take. But I have in addition, I put a whole plate out there, so in case someone comes to my house, then I have something to give to them, some prasadam to give to them. Don't get too greedy, it's just fruit. That's all I eat in the morning. Someone's saying, there's prasadam, I got to see Maharaj today. That's all it is. It's not pakoras, halva, sweet rice, glubjaments, and everything like that. Samosas. Nothing that you wouldn't be attracted to. So, but I was thinking like that. If someone comes, I got to give them something. So giving a gift, accepting gifts. Just like recently, in our temple in North Carolina, I wasn't there because in Christmas I was at Govardhan. We had Christmas party. And so there was, present. People expressed what they needed within reason, and they all got a little present. Everybody sat around and got a little present, and we chanted Hare Krishna together. So there's, this family-like cooperative atmosphere, giving gifts, accepting gifts, revealing the mind. How can I help you? Like that. And, if someone's having some difficulty, approaching them in confidence and helping them deal with it. And I mean, for example, if someone's having some financial difficulty, for example, recently, my godbrother Lochan Prabhu, he makes these murtis, Prabhupada murtis. So he was getting very sick because of the fumes. These are plastic murtis. I mean, and he has to work with these fumes all the time. And so there was this really expensive device that he had to get to, just like keep the air clean so he wouldn't die from it. So there was he did a GoFundMe, and, I offered him some money too. And, just like, whatever, I'm not bragging, I offered him some money. But it just really softened up the I've always had a good relationship with him. I mean, and I mean, just like even my relationship with Lochan, I could use that as an example. When his daughter Rasapriya had cancer a number of years ago. I don't know if any of you knew Rasapriya. Yeah. She's a great chanter, really nice devotee. So then every day, before she left her body, I was going over there and reading Prabhupada's books to her. Little things like that. And, then he went to the crematorium. I had to go with him and drive his car because he was just, so upset about the whole thing. So you do these things for devotees. And it's really satisfying. It brings everyone really close together. It's the same nectar as chanting Hare Krishna, I mean, or perhaps even more pleasing to Krishna. Because we even mentioned yesterday, Krishna says he is my devotee, he's not my devotee. He says, devotee of my devotee is my devotee, all these different quotes. And so it's really satisfies the heart when you can do something for another devotee. It doesn't have to be a god brother, it can be a god nephew, god niece, whatever. And my experience is that Krishna really becomes happy with you when you do these things, the loving relationships. And that's why I brought up the story about the prachetas. Because Krishna appeared to the prachetas because of those loving relationships the brothers had with each other. There wasn't that sibling rivalry between each other. So, anyway, that's my personal experience. Question is how you can develop those things by developing those things. Action and knowledge yields realization, as Prabhupada said. So, and it makes everything really sweet, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's really sweet. I mean, I can refer to Jai Kumar's how he does those things with the different devotees. He has very sweet relationships, and he does things. He goes out of his way to help other people, and many of my god brothers, they'll have that mood of really going out of their way to help someone who's in distress, try to understand them or whatever. So, does that answer the question?
I just wanted to say, Maharaj, that I've been thinking lately how important it is to try to exhibit more and more that mood of cooperation, because with the new temple coming, already you can feel the energy that's being created as it manifests. And so obviously more and more people are going to come. Like I took a prasadam with someone a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago, and they said, this is just the beginning. There were a lot of guests there that Sunday. And so it's true, like so many people will want to come and participate, in varying degrees. Like, come and serve, dedicate their lives to Nutalavan, be part of the congregation. Like that. So, it like behooves us. Obviously, we want to please Srila Prabhupada and see Nutalavan, prosper. So, that's a quite basic, important thing that we just have to, show our love and cooperation with the devotees here. And then I was just thinking just now that maybe part of our problem is that because there's devotees here that have been here so long, that sometimes when you have a history with someone, it's a little difficult to overlook the, you have some expectations maybe of, how they should conduct themselves, but they did this, then that, but it's, it's important really to focus on those loving relationships and transcend any kind of difficulties that we may have experienced with people.
Yeah, actually, that's really important because now you have this new temple coming, and if you have these loving relationships, you're going to fill it really quickly. Otherwise, we don't. The temple will just be empty. So that's a really important point. Now, you made an important point, like how do we not cop an attitude towards people? Because when we have long-term relationships, we actually tend to see the other devotees in terms of I would say, a designation or one or two word label, like he or she is envious, he or she is spaced out. So we actually tend to diagnose. I use that word in my course, of course, in Catholic communication. We tend to diagnose people, and that diagnosis tends to stick with someone. In other words, we see people through the label. Like if I say to you that, I'm not going to use anyone here. No. All right, let's say if I say, Bushaya's a fighter, right? You think he's a fighter. And every time you see her, he's a fighter. You'll see him through that. The politicians do that all the time. Like if you see your friend Donald Trump, he who cannot be named. So he puts a label on people, and he has all these funny labels he puts on people, and then his followers, his blind followers, tend to see those people through those labels. You follow what I'm talking about?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and then it sticks. You know, what did Prabhupada say? Give the dog a bad name and hang him. So that's exactly the same thing. So we tend to have these labels for everybody, and we have to look beyond the labels, look beyond whatever designation or conclusion we've had about someone, and see them as sincere servants of Srila Prabhupada, people who are trying to serve Prabhupada, maybe in a different way than I'm trying to serve Prabhupada, but they're trying to serve Srila Prabhupada to the best of their ability in a different way. We're all unique personalities. And it's difficult, too, because we have people from all sorts of different cultures joining. You know, there's people from the South, like Yogendra, right?
Yeah.
Us Northerners don't understand where he's coming from. So, and there's people from the North. And we do have different cultures. I mean, just like yesterday afternoon, I met someone from a similar culture that I come from. And even though, you know, he's not quite a devotee yet, we could relate. It was easy to relate to them. You know, we just use a language that none of you understand. So, but it's difficult when cross-cultural communities like that. You'll see many times that most other communities are monocultural. Like I have many friends, I mentioned this yesterday to Dr. Samani, that many friends who are from the Gujarati community, and their friendship is just like almost 100% amongst others of the same culture. And even there's subcultures within the culture. So here we have, like Prabhupada said, United Nations of the spiritual world. And we can't become like the actual United Nations, which is a disunited nations, where everyone's fighting each other. Prabhupada said there's so many different flags. He said, how can it be united? Isn't it? Because there's so many different flags. So we should be like real United Nations and appreciate the variety. Variety is so interesting. You know, when I see people from the South, it's so interesting. I mean, as long as they don't eat pickled pig's feet. That's a Southern dish. Not here at the temple, of course. But, but it's so interesting, how they're different. So we shouldn't reject people because of a different way of expressing things, whether it's cultural, whether it's educational, level of education or whatever. I just find it interesting to interact. Okay, so we probably have to end now, right? Because it's time for prasadam for all of you. I already ate. So, I guess I said all glorious to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Go.